Welcome to the GloZone. Glad you came back for round two, February 2019. As I sit here thinking about returning to Washington, D.C. this April, cherry blossom time with a group, I'm dumbfounded by recent research which took me deeper into the hidden forces at play in the major monuments in Washington, D.C., and how our founders and other Freemasons and those that followed them were interested in showing the interplay at certain times of the year, like solstices and equinoxes, certain important dates, and how they played with obelisks in the landscape, and how there was a feminine receptacle vessel nearby to where they could project the phallic image, let's say from the Washington Monument, into Ellipse Park and show at a certain time that phallic symbol would pierce the womb. And it appears in ways you can't imagine. I know there's a lot of interesting degrees and angles, the federal triangle, certain meridians that they were using, which suggests that they had been schooled, probably in Paris, certainly in France, with the esoteric knowledge of not only geomancy, the spirit of place, but bringing the starlight down from the heavens onto the earth in this magical, what was intended to be the spiritual capital of the world, the spiritual capital of the world. So that really has me captivated, moving from that time of our inception, of our founding, and what forces are at play as I reflect to what forces are at play in our world right now in Washington, D.C., and what's really going on. So before we go deeper into that subject, I'd like you to take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the show. Enjoy this transmission. We're going to do a little drumming. Is the shamanic drumming helps us become a little more present and in the moment. Reflecting back onto what I was saying before that, it amazes me that our founders seem to understand the great work of ancient Egypt. They were following the pathway of initiation of raising both the feminine and the masculine energies, those two intertwined serpents, along the jed or the column or the spine into the pineal gland, where the light explosion is said to occur, where we move into a different state of being or consciousness. They seem to be well aware of that goal of the great initiates in the mystery schools, especially from ancient Egypt onward. And it seemed important to them to show in the interplay of different monuments and alignments that they were well aware of that balancing of the masculine and feminine. Now, maybe in their everyday lives, maybe in the way in which they conducted themselves at the historical time in which they lived, maybe they didn't get it right most of the time, but somehow these principles were handed down to them, and somehow some group of people, some being, some force made it very clear to them how important it was to showcase the great work in the layout of Washington, D.C. I keep asking myself, what am I trying to connect with there? What is the energy? What is the power of place? It's not for me to do the traditional sightseeing, although I think Washington, D.C. is a beautiful, beautiful city. It's more of its hidden esoteric knowledge in what was encoded there in stone by the Freemasons and these great minds that made up our founding fathers. I find that every time I go, I learn more. And as a channel, I connect with Thomas Jefferson, with George Washington. I love going to Mount Vernon. And there's a few others. Ben Franklin always comes through as well. But in a recent channel, George Washington clarified their work with the goddess. And a lot of you know me with my work with Mary Magdalene in the Isis energies and the goddess. And in a recent message, which can be found in its entirety on my website, www.gloria-amendola.com, there's more of his message. But one piece I'd like to read. As he was talking about the great goddess that they worked with, he began expressing that last year in April, when we went in April 2018, and there was even a painting of Mary Magdalene in the Great Room, which received people from all over the world, which I thought was very interesting. He started to talk about their connection to the great goddess, the goddess energies, which really surprised me. So I'd like to share a paragraph from this recent channeling of George Washington because it deals with the great goddess and it gives just a little more glimpse into what they may have been doing. There was another level of understanding of the great goddess, and it was in her power to bring forth the impulses from the starlight. Much is not known about this process, and it is not something that we shared with the general public, but look for it along the way. That's one of the reasons that I walk the streets in Washington and go to certain selected areas and places, is to see for ourselves on the ground how things were aligned, how things are in order, how things are deliberately placed, who placed them, what evolution of history did they go through to become reality, why was the megalithic yard an important unit of measurement, and what did it represent? Again, the masculine and the feminine energies in balance, which is actually symbolic of the ancient matriarchy. Matriarchy not meaning women have power over men, but there is balance and harmony, and therefore that masculine and feminine energy being balanced within us as a goal of the great initiates throughout time makes a little more sense in the scheme of things. So were they planting the seeds of the return of the great ancient matriarchy of harmony and balance and peace? I wonder. It's not an easy thing to unravel. It's not a quick, hey, look at this, look at that. We've got it all figured out. These were great minds in history that were being directed by certainly the French in their knowledge, but also perhaps from star beings, from influences beyond our earth that were helping to guide the evolution of Earth, like what is being done right now in the here and the now, that connection to advanced beings who have always been following our development throughout time. We're a young country, so we think we have it all figured out when we just became the superpower of the world in a short period of time, and we really don't understand how the European history blended into American history and the esoteric underpinnings of our great experiment here. So just reflecting on that right now, I don't know, it's winter, it's still cold, it's still dark, and feeling womb-like just to take in these principles on a much deeper level and understand what the ancients, why did they go to all this trouble? Why did they have to hide it? Why did they have to use such elaborate math and engineering and ancient knowledge to put memorials in stone so that at this time, when we had the technology and the books and the media to take in vast amounts of information and digest them, a lot of people talking about this, just listening and sleeping and dreaming on it all. Why was this so important? That's what really has me spellbound right now, because I feel that this year, when we return, more will be revealed and it will make a lot more sense. It may be shocking on some level, especially with the starlight being brought down into the earth. What does that truly mean for our evolution? But I think that we're ready to really look at these concepts, not from an airy-fairy, flighty perspective, but from the understanding that we have been guided by ancient advanced beings for a very, very long time. So I'd like to recommend a book that you might find interesting that would explain this information, some of which I've touched upon, maybe make it a little clearer or at least generate more questions. Really good, juicy questions. The name of the book is City of the Goddess, Freemasons, the Sacred Feminine, and the Secret Beneath the Seat of Power in Washington, D.C. by author Alan Butler. It's a great read. It will really open your eyes as to what may have been going on in the underpinnings of our country and of our capital city, and its intention to be a spiritual capital of the world. I know that's hard to believe in this era of really difficult, divisive politics, but it's an interesting read nonetheless, and there's much food for thought there. So that's it for now from the GloZone. We hope you have enjoyed this episode, this transmission, and we look forward to coming to you again